Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through some of the noise and complexity around starting what can be a really practical and rewarding pursuit, your first woodworking workshop.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
But it's a hobby, maybe a craft, that often seems loaded with these heavy assumptions. People see professional shops online and just get overwhelmed.
Exactly. We hear it all the time that the biggest hurdle is just feeling stuck right before you even begin, thinking you need this massive dedicated garage.
Or industrial dust collection, yeah.
Right. Or thousands of dollars in fancy, heavy-duty machines. That whole idea of the perfect workshop actually stops people from starting at all.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because the sources we looked at, they challenge those big assumptions directly.
Mm.
The mission here for you is really to strip away all that unnecessary baggage.
Okay.
You need to understand that what really matters for your first functional shop is, well, smart organization, really good lighting, and honestly, a clear set of plans. It's not about the size or the price tag.
So that physical space, the footprint, that's often the biggest mental block people put up.
It really is. It's a psychological barrier they create themselves.
So we're trying to find the shortcut here. To the functional knowledge,
Yeah.
what do you actually need to just set up shop? To start building right away and, make some sawdust instead of just making excuses?
Let's get into it.
All right, here's where it gets really interesting for me. What are those common mental roadblocks, the ones that keep beginners kind of locked in that planning phase, and how do the sources just dismantle them?
Yeah, the materials really help boil those fears down to like 3 core myths.
Okay.
Myth number 1, the dedicated space. You think you need a whole shed or a huge garage just to try a project.
Right.
Myth number 2, the cost. This idea that you have to spend thousands on power tools to get decent results.
Mm-hmm.
And myth 3, the complexity. Feeling like you need years of experience, advanced joinery skills before you can make anything remotely worthwhile.
I know when I first started looking online, my first thought was, okay, I need a giant table saw, a router table. It's actually genuinely reassuring that the sources say, hold on, dismiss that urge, and focus small first.
They really do, because the reality is just way simpler, more accessible. Even a corner of your garage works, or a section of the basement, maybe half a spare room.
Seriously, just a corner.
Yeah, the focus shifts completely from sheer size to concentrated functionality. You really have to focus on starting small, getting comfortable with the basic techniques first.
Okay.
And then grow your tools, refine your space, but only as your projects naturally get more complex. That's the smart way to invest. Long waste.
So let's talk about function in that small space then, because before we even get to the tools, you need a space that actually works. What are the absolute basics, the things we really can't skip?
Well, you need a stable base. That's
Yeah.
number 1. Woodworking is fundamentally about accuracy.
Yeah, right.
And if your work surface moves or, flexes when you put pressure on it, you're just introducing error right from the start. So a solid, immovable workbench or maybe a sturdy table is actually more critical than having tons of floor space. It's your anchor.
Your anchor. I like that. Okay, so we've got our anchor, our stable surface. Now let's talk toolkit. The sources seem pretty firm. Buy tools as you need them as projects get more complex. That avoids overwhelm and wasting money.
Exactly. Don't buy the whole store at once.
So let's go category by category. This is the core list, right, for every beginner. Let's start with accuracy because, like you said, in woodworking, measurement precision is, well, it's everything. It's unforgiving.
It is. Accuracy is absolutely everything. In this craft, being off by even a tiny bit, like a 16th of an inch, can mean things just don't fit. Or worse, it fails.
Oof. Okay.
So you absolutely need a reliable tape measure. That's obvious. But maybe the most underrated essential tool the sources really emphasize is the combination square.
A combination square. Why the big emphasis on that compared to, say, just a cheap ruler or something?
Good question. It's because the combination square is engineered to be perfectly square 90 degrees, which you need constantly for marking cuts so they're straight and true.
Okay.
But it's also adjustable. You can lock it to mark a specific depth or width consistently across different pieces of wood. That kind of consistency. It's almost impossible to get just by eyeballing it with a ruler.
Right. Consistency. Got it. And then to actually put those marks on the wood.
A sharp pencil, obviously. And critically, something called a marking gauge.
Okay, marking gauge sounds a bit specialized. What's that do exactly?
It's the champion of consistency. You set it, lock it, and it lets you scribe a perfectly consistent line parallel to an edge for marking where to cut or where a joint goes. It's way more precise than trying to hold a ruler and pencil perfectly steady, especially on wood grain.
Okay, precise measurements marked out. Now, the crucial part, turning that line into a clean cut. If that goes wrong, the project's doomed. What tools do the sources prioritize for cutting?
For cutting, the handsaw is the foundation. Really. It's affordable, it's quiet, which is great for shared spaces,
Mm-hmm.
and it's super versatile for most small beginner projects. Plus, it forces you to learn control.
But aren't handsaws kind of tricky for beginners, keeping them straight? Why push the handsaw over maybe a cheap jigsaw or a small power saw? Seems like those would make straight cuts easier.
That's a really great question. It gets right to the heart of the philosophy in these sources. The handsaw teaches you the feel of cutting wood. You build actual muscle memory.
Okay.
It makes minimal dust, which is perfect for a small space that might not be a dedicated workshop.
Hmm.
And frankly, if you can't make a reasonably straight cut with a handsaw, you probably won't make a great one with a circular saw either. It teaches discipline.
That makes sense. Learn the discipline first, then maybe speed things up later.
Exactly. However, the sources do acknowledge, look, if you plan on working with large sheets, like plywood or MDF, which can be really unwieldy,
Yep, those are awkward.
then the circular saw is the budget-friendly optional power tool they recommend. But it's mainly just for breaking down those big sheets into pieces you can actually handle on your small workbench.
Perfect. So essential hand tools for the core skills, plus maybe one utility power tool if you're dealing with big sheet goods.
Okay.
Okay, now pieces are cut and measured. Next up, refining them, shaping, smoothing. What do the sources suggest there?
Well, you need a good claw hammer. Simple stuff, driving, and pulling nails. You'll also want a set of chisels.
Chisels, aren't those for really fancy joints?
They can be, but they're also crucial for just paring down wood, cleaning up inside corners, or fine-tuning a fit. Really useful basic tools. And then for getting that final surface smooth, you'll be reaching for simple sandpaper or ideally a block plane.
Ah, okay, a block lane. Why bring that in if sandpaper's cheaper and seems simpler?
Because a block plane, even a small, affordable one, is often much faster and, more importantly, creates a truer, flatter surface than just hand sanding alone. Sanding tends to kind of round over edges if you're not careful. A plane removes material uniformly. It's another one of those discipline tools the sources recommend for getting higher quality results quicker.
Got it. Okay, and finally, assembly, the moment of truth, bringing the pieces together, usually with screws or glue.
Right, and the modern essential here is pretty much non-negotiable.
Mm.
The cordless drill driver. You need to drill pilot holes, you need to drive screws. One cordless tool handles both easily, saves a lot of hassle.
Makes sense.
But if there's one tool category the sources really hammer home, calling them your extra set of hands, it's clamps.
Clamps. Okay, why so much stress on clamps?
Because wood moves, especially when you apply glue. The moisture makes it swell slightly, and without good, even pressure from strong clamps holding everything square and tight while the glue dries. Pieces will slip, they'll warp, they'll pull out of alignment.
Ah, okay, so clamps basically guarantee things stay put and the joints are strong.
Exactly. They ensure that structural integrity, non-negotiable for good results.
And before we move off tools, let's just repeat this because it's so important. Safety gear.
Oh, absolutely.
Do not overlook the essentials. Safety glasses, hearing protection, especially if you use that circular saw or even just hammering, and a dust mask. Seriously, don't make your first project a trip to the ER or cause a long-term health issue.
Couldn't agree more. Non-negotiable.
Okay. So now we have our core toolkit. How do we make that small corner actually functional? Because just having tools piled up next to a wobbly folding table doesn't really count as a workshop, right?
Right, exactly. And this raises that important question. What are the environmental factors? What turns that spare corner into a truly usable shop? Like we said, it's not about the square footage. It's about making the small space work efficiently.
So what are those key functional requirements the sources list for optimizing a small space?
First and foremost is good lighting. You absolutely need bright, consistent light, something that minimizes shadows, especially when you're trying to follow a cut line with a handsaw or use that combination square accurately.
Good lighting makes things easier and safer too, I imagine.
Definitely safer. Visibility is key.
Yeah.
And then what about the air?
Ah, yeah, dust.
Ventilation.
Yeah.
It's essential. And the sources are really firm on this. It isn't just about comfort. Sanding creates fine dust, and finishes, especially oil-based ones, give off fumes. Doing that in a closed space, it's a major safety and health hazard beginners often overlook.
So what can you do in a small space?
Even just a simple box fan, positioned strategically in a window to draw air out of the room, can make a huge difference.
Okay, good tip. We already talked about the sturdy workbench that's critical. What about storing the tools when you're not using them? Clutter seems like the enemy in a small space.
Oh, it is. Organization is the secret weapon of the small shop. You need good, accessible tool storage.
Like what?
The sources really recommend thinking vertically. Use wall space. Things like wall hooks, pegboards, simple shelves, or maybe even a small rolling toolbox you can tuck away.
Ah, vertical storage. Smart.
Yeah. When you're organized, you can quickly find what you need, and maybe more importantly, you can quickly transition the space back to whatever its main use is, especially if you're sharing that space, like in a garage or basement.
So the key takeaway here is really working smart, not necessarily big. Even a small apartment space could potentially double as an assembly area with a few adjustments, especially if you nail that vertical storage and have a quick cleanup routine.
Exactly. Smart setup beats big space every time for a beginner.
Okay, let's talk about what might be the biggest mistake beginners make. And the source material really highlights this, just winging it.
Oh, yeah.
We've all done it right. Got some wood, maybe sketched something on a napkin, started cutting, and then realized halfway through you needed a different kind of joint. Or you bought the wrong thickness of lumber.
Happens all the time. And without clear, detailed instructions, planned projects often just stall out or get abandoned halfway through. I've seen people waste weekends, $100 worth of nice wood, just trying to figure out the angles on something simple like a box.
Oh, that's frustrating.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is how detailed plans directly solve that immediate frustration. They save you time, they save you money before you even make the first cut.
So having that solid blueprint, it removes the guesswork, builds confidence right away. Tell us about the benefits the sources list for using clear plans.
The benefits are pretty substantial. First, like we said, they completely avoid that costly, frustrating trial and error.
Okay.
Second, and this is huge for budget fantasies, they provide detailed, accurate material lists, cut lists, hardware lists. This means you buy exactly what you need, nothing more, nothing less. That's probably the single biggest way a beginner saves money right off the bat.
So no more guessing at the lumber yard and ending up with extra boards or having to go back.
Precisely. No wasted trips, no wasted material. Third, they offer clear diagrams, step-by-step instructions. They remove the guesswork about the order of operations, which is often where beginners stumble.
Right, what to do first.
Exactly. And the sources point out that good plans exist for basically any space and skill level. You can find plans for small crafts you build on a tabletop, all the way up to full pieces of furniture or even small sheds.
And that confidence boost you get from actually finishing a project successfully, that must be immense for a beginner.
Huge.
So, to build that confidence, using this basic tool set we've discussed, the sources suggest starting simple but, rewarding projects. Which specific ones do they recommend for getting that foundational practice?
Yeah, they give some really excellent specific examples, things that heavily rely on those essential tools we talked about, like practicing accurate crosscuts with your handsaw by making a simple picture frame.
Okay.
Or a birdhouse. Those are great for practicing basic assembly, too. For getting the hang of measuring and ensuring things are stable, they suggest a simple storage box.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to tackle something just slightly larger but still really manageable with basic tools, try a simple bookshelf or maybe a small coffee table. Those force you to practice consistent joint work and clamping techniques.
Right, so these are all projects that teach you those core skills. Measuring, cutting accurately, clamping properly, basic finishing, without needing, a $5,000 machine.
Exactly. They build skills and confidence using the essentials.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? You're standing there maybe looking at that corner of your garage or basement, that potential space. What's the main takeaway?
Well, I think it's that every single master woodworker started exactly where you are now, with the basics. This deep dive really shows you only need, fundamentally, three main things to get started today.
Okay, what are they?
First, a few essential, decent quality hand tools that actually teach you discipline and feel. Second, a small but well-organized space that prioritizes stability and good light. And third, clear, detailed blueprints to guide you through those first successful builds.
So don't let the lack of a huge space or the idea that you need super fancy equipment stop you. The process itself, especially when you follow a good plan, the sources describe it as fun, really rewarding, and actually stress relieving.
It can be, absolutely, because you move from just thinking about it to confidently creating something tangible.
Yeah.
And, this is maybe more than just a hobby. It's kind of a commitment to detailed execution, following through. If woodworking really is rewarding and stress relieving, maybe consider how that discipline, the discipline of following a detailed plan, which saves you time, money, frustration,
Right.
how that might translate into other areas of your life.
Interesting thought.
It teaches you that proper preparation almost guarantees a better outcome. Less stress, more success.
A great final thought. So the question for you, the listener, is which plan are you going to tackle first to start what could be a lifelong passion?